This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
You are full of bullshit, my friend. I will sue you for everything you have. I will sue your ass.
Denver Broncos Mile High View. No commercials, no bullshit. By the way, James Gardner was a huge Raiders fan, for all those who remember the Rockford Files. Anyway, I'm doing the first 2 weeks of the NFL. Who wins, who loses, Broncos versus opponent. At 10:20 Mountain Time on Monday Night Football, September the 9th. The Broncos will be in Las Vegas to open up the first season of Las Vegas football. I would like to tell you out there that you can guarantee the NFL, who probably doesn't, care any more about the Raiders than any other team, they absolutely want Las Vegas to succeed. You can guarantee because they want to get a Super Bowl in there at some point, and probably many Super Bowls to follow after the stadium is completed in 2020. I'm not sure where the NFL Super Bowl is going to be in 2020, but anyway, after the Raiders Las Vegas Stadium is built in 2020, they of course want Las Vegas to be a big NFL town, and I could get into the NFL and gambling, and there's some books written on the sports organizations and gambling, and what they do behind the scenes. It's better left unsaid kind of things, but they're out there. They're great books if you ever get a hold of them and read about them. It's the no bullshit books I'm talking about, the ones that aren't excuse making, saying, "Oh, there's nothing going on here." Yeah, right. Anyway, so you can guarantee the Raiders will get generous calls. They'll get what we used to call, when I played, home cooking. They'll probably get their fair share of home cooking. I am predicting a Raiders victory on this night, and I'll tell you what I base it on. I believe it'll be a close game. I do believe the Raiders will be able to run on the Broncos, and they'll have success with their running game. Things that could lose it for the Raiders, if I'm wrong, their offensive line is as bad as the Broncos, but they're not far removed from being a decent offensive line. But it doesn't really mean anything. They acquired Trent Brown, one-time Patriot, great offensive lineman, will probably go to left tackle. But he went to the 49ers and stunk the joint up, which is typical for Patriot O-linemen that leave the system. But he's still, solid. They did pick up, I believe, somebody in the draft that's really solid as well. But again, he's a rookie. So that could be their Achilles heel once again, the offensive line. But if they're good enough to block for Jacobs, I believe is their newly acquired running back from Alabama with that first round pick. It could be a long night for the Broncos while they're trying to figure out how to shut that down. Carr and company can kind of pick them apart. Like I said, soft in the middle, and I did say that the Broncos. The middle of their defense is going to be a bit of a soft spot. So you got Jacobs, who can, play multiple positions. And I know you'll say Philip Lindsay as well, and that very well could be. And the Raiders will have to contend with Noah Fant. So that's why I think that this could be a close game. The drop-off, though, for the Raiders, I believe, is the defense. I do believe the Broncos, by and large, are the better team, but because the way things usually run in the NFL, these opening inaugural nights usually end up as the hometown victor. I'm sure that's exactly what the NFL wants. That's why I say I would predict hometown cooking on some calls that may go if it's a close game, that end up going the Raiders' way. Week 2. If I'm not mistaken, it is the Bears. The Bears. And now, it's so cliche now. And I believe this is where the Broncos bounce back. I believe that the Denver Broncos head coach Fangio knows the Bears inside and out, and that's a huge disadvantage for the Bears, being on the road. Interconference game, not exactly a must-win for the Bears anyway. And I think the Broncos will have to have a bounce-back game. And the Broncos in week 2 will be 1-1. I do feel that their most likely end result is going to be an 8-8 kind of a season. Somewhere in that mix. 8-8, 7-9, 9-7, kind of putting them in there as the most likely place to be. They could overachieve, of course, and break 8-8 expectations, which would put them in the 7-9. But maybe they'll eke out a 10. Best case scenario. But again, it is also very possible they could go down the tubes with the quarterback, the loss of Joe Flacco, and Mr. Not Ready for Prime Time Lock coming in there. They could go down the other way, down the other road. And of course, we all know what'll happen. Everybody will be clamoring for the 2020 draft of a quarterback. But so I would say their projection is 8-8. It could work out for the betterment, or if injuries prevail on the quarterback position, it could not be such a great season for the Broncos. But I'm going to start off with the first 2 weeks. I may hold off on. I may go even to the 4 weeks, but I'll hold off at that point. See, engage it to get a better idea on these teams. Like I said, I don't really have very much faith in a lot of teams that are out there, because everything's so up and down. So, at any rate, there it is. Loss to the Raiders opening in Las Vegas, and a comeback win in Mile High. And the Broncos start the first 2 weeks 1-1.